Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Where we continue to follow the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden now.
Those are just some of the scenes overnight as thousands of Americans gathered in celebration of Osama bin Laden's death.
Former Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill says he has thought about the mission every day since that May Day in 2011.
For multiple conversations you had with Rob O'Neill over the past year and a half, how'd you get
access? And you described that his head kind of exploded when you hit him.
I actually hit him 3 times because I shot him twice when he was standing and once on the ground.
That is the fucking American badass right there.
Go, go, go. We are not going for fame and we are not going for bravado. We are going for the single mom who dropped her kids off at elementary school on a Tuesday morning, and then 45 minutes later she jumped to her death out of a skyscraper.
If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator.
I'm Rob O'Neill, and this is the Operator Podcast. Back in studio, back home. It's good to be back home. Thank you for joining me on the Operator Podcast. I'm your host, former SEAL Team 6 operator Robert J. O'Neill, and welcome to it. I love calling it the Operator Podcast because it's about you as an operator, what you're doing in life. I've said this before again and again. Whatever you're doing, if you're doing something to help someone else or yourself, then you are operating. And I'd love to get your opinion on social media. On Instagram at the Operator Podcast. Go check that out for sure. And then at Mikuya. And that's also on Twitter at Mikuya, MCHOOYAH at Mikuya on Twitter. Follow me there. I'm not going to be reading your comments on Twitter so much as Instagram for, the next few days, just because it gets mean on there, especially last week. I don't know if you saw this, but I don't know if you know this. Last week, we had an election. Yeah, it's true. You can look it up. We had an election, and before the week started, there were dudes out there. I'm not saying their names because I don't want to give them any props, but I think you know who I'm talking about. If you look, you'll know too. And, at some point, since it's Veterans Day, as a combat vet, I've been to many crappy places with some phenomenal people, and we've gone into some shit, and we've seen some bad stuff, and we've met the enemy, and we've killed them. And we've lost a few guys, men and women. We've lost a lot of men and women, and it's important, to understand. This isn't Memorial Day. There's a big difference. Memorial Day is recognizing the fallen service members. This is Veterans Day, where you can still go have a beer with a veteran. You can meet with other veterans, and it's very important for veterans to get together. I think it's important for veterans to get into office, either side of the aisle. I lean right, but I'm a registered independent. But if we had veterans as independents, Republicans, and Democrats, potentially you might be able to get in the same room and at least talk it out or come to some negotiation, I think. Tulsi Gabbard is a prime example, an Army officer, a Democrat from Hawaii, but she switched the party when she saw how loony they were getting, and obviously now she's supporting Trump, and she's going to probably be in the administration somewhere, and watch out in 4 years because I think she's the most presidential person around right now, just saying. But was a Democrat, saw what's going on, I think is a Republican now, but she's definitely conservative. Actually, it's not even that she's conservative. She's just smart. That's it. And I'm not saying that conservatives are smart. I'm just saying a lot of the crap that's out there, you know what's right and wrong. It's not hard. And you know how you think behind closed doors and things like that. But if we get more veterans into office, that would be a good thing. So it's Veterans Day. It's good to be out there. So as a combat vet who's been around, I have had enough of being called a Nazi, of being called a fascist, of being called garbage, just because we don't like it when men beat up women in the Olympics. And then even saying that, you're going to get freaked out because I'm not, whatever, the argument. So we put up with this crap, and I have a little bit of a platform, and you put up with it now and get every now and then take a jab at people. And again, I think that's healthy too. If you want to see people totally mess with each other and use F-bombs, watch veterans talk to each other. And I mean, if you don't have thick skin in the military, you are not going to last, or you're going to be a second lieutenant. I don't know. But yeah, so we do take jabs at each other, but enough is enough, especially when people are on the left are constantly saying it. Then I saw a post of these young men. They're men. They're very important that they're men because I've been called a lot of names because of it. And what they said, something along the lines of real men vote for Harris. So I didn't take offense to that because I think you should be able to vote for whomever you like. You should be able to say whatever you like. You should be able to read whatever you like, and you should be smart enough to make your own decision. I think that too. Because of the way the media and social media leans, a lot of people and schools are force-fed bullshit. And so when they, and I don't know these guys, but I responded something with, if there was no social media, you would be my concubines. And what I'm saying is, if and when we get invaded, I don't think men from that generation are going to fight anybody. I honestly think they would be the first thing we call collaborators, because they're pretty much communists as it is. So when they say that real men vote for Harris, I said, if the invasion comes, you're not going to be fighting. And I meant concubine. Here's what I know what the whatever definition in Britannica is. I meant like, you will be my slave, you'll be carrying my gear, all this stuff too. And it just blew up into I wanted to have sex with these boys, which is not the case. It's funny, and it just spun up. And if you ever get on the Jabby Jabberson side of the left, especially younger fanatics, communists, man, they will come after you with bots on a level you can't believe. To the point where they want to ruin your life, but they'll say anything they can about any family member. And it doesn't matter. And then when certain family members read that crap, they get pissed. And they shouldn't, because first of all, social media is not real. Okay, you're living in your phone. And if you wake up and check Twitter or X and you're depressed in the morning, you're doing it wrong. Wake up and get out of bed and then work out, man. Get the stuff pumping. Even if you got to go downstairs and stretch, do that stuff. And I like coffee, get some coffee or whatever you want to start the day, but don't just sit there reading social media because it's not real. But anyway, they came at me, they attacked me. I think my Wikipedia page changed and also keep in mind, Wikipedia is not real either. That's not, I mentioned Britannica. That's actually real. Wikipedia is something that anyone can go to and edit any single time. And I have, is pussy the right word? Lunatics maybe, that like have my Wikipedia page on, like they have alerts on their phone. So as soon as something happens or anything changes on Wikipedia, they get their little dick beaters in there and they change it out too. So I read it a little while and it said something about me coming out as a gay man last week or something, which is fucked up if you think about it, because here's the left always insulted by what they say the right is saying about it, and then they come back and try to assault me with that. Like, first of all, there's nothing wrong with being gay. I'm just not. I got gay friends. They're cool as shit. I got gay friends that voted for Trump. Yeah, put that in your what have you and do whatever with it. But they changed my page and Wikipedia is funny actually. If you know where to look, and like people put such bullshit in there that doesn't get caught for a few days and it's nonsense. Anyway, that's my page. But a bunch of stuff, and I don't take offense to it. I don't really care, to be honest. I'm not always serious on Twitter. Chances are I'm trolling too, just to get a rise out of people. What I like to do is like start fights and leave and let them just battle it out in the airspace, whatever is around them. And they fight and get brutal. But look, even if you don't have a ton of followers, I wouldn't even recommend checking your comments on Twitter, X, anytime. But so anyway, the point I was, and as far as those dudes go, it's like prison. It's not gay if I'm simply asserting dominance. So take that one too. But the Operator Podcast, put your comments there on Instagram and Makuya at Makuya on Instagram and Twitter. I'm not checking Twitter, but I will check Instagram. But so Veterans Day, I thought I would bring that up because Memorial Day is a somber day of remembrance, or at least it should be, where Veterans Day, I think, is a party. And, well, I mean, yesterday was the Marine Corps birthday, 249, I think, man. And that's awesome. And I love the Marines and the Navy because they're actually older than the nation. Like November 10th, 75. Yeah. Semper Fi. And Marines are just great. And I mean, talk about giving each other shit. The only reason I went into the Navy recruiter's office when I was 19 is because the Marine was not there and the Navy guy was. And I had two Marines tell me before that the Marine Corps is actually part of the Department of the Navy. It's just the men's department. So I'm instantly getting shit for I didn't even know the rivalry. I didn't know that was, I did know the Marine Corps was actually part of the Department of the Navy because in A Few Good Men, Lieutenant Kendrick, played by Kiefer Sutherland. Look at that shit. That's not even a note. I'm totally off script here because I don't have a script. But other than saying there are two things next to my bed, the Marine Corps Code of Ethics and the King James Bible. Love that. And he did say, I love the Navy. Every time we need to fight, you boys always give us a ride. So I knew there was something there with that, and I just went into the Navy guy, and he said, why do you want the Marine? I've told this story before, and I said, they have snipers. We have snipers, and then I joined the Navy. And a lot of veterans, too. What's cool, because we're talking about veterans, is a lot of veterans have that in common. They joined because a recruiter wasn't in the office. And I've heard people that wanted to join the Air Force ended up in the Army, vice versa, Marine Corps, Navy, Navy, Marine Corps, stuff like that. And if you stop, here's what I love about service is, I mean, even the shortest stint, you're going to do 4 years, okay? But you're learning so much in that 4 years that the choice you made that day as a young man or woman just affected your life in so many different ways. Like I tell my kids, my daughters, if that Marine was not at Arby's, you wouldn't be alive because I would have gone to Paris Island, which is crazy to think about. But it's just so cool to hear the story. And everyone's got a unique story. Boot camp stories are unique. My Bud stories, basic underwater demolition stories, are unique as are everyone else's. But even the boot camp stories are awesome because you learn right off the bat. Like the first thing I learned is I made the worst decision of my life. And I'm talking in the first 5 minutes on the bus. Then it took a while, but to realize, man, everybody here pretty much is scared. And they're wondering if they made the worst decision of their lives. But as you go, you start to learn a little uniformity, at least when I went through. Because back then, we didn't see color. We saw green. That's one color, uniform, haircuts, boom, you're the same. I don't know what they're doing today. I've seen some weird shit. But everybody gets there for a different reason. And it's just cool to hear the stories. Just looking around and seeing people from every different part of the country. This is in boot camp. Every different part of this great nation. And we were like a mixed division. So we had women, too, we'd meet up with and do, well, in the Navy, I don't know about the Marine Corps. In the Navy, it took us a solid 2 weeks to learn how to walk. And I mean that. Here's how difficult it is to march. Ready? Follow along. Left, right, left, right. Got it? Left, right. Now, let's all just do that together. Okay, 2 weeks of that shit. Anyway, the stories are all unique, and it's really cool, and you make some bonds. I was thinking back to boot camp yesterday, and just the people that I met there, and they had impacts on my life, and I haven't spoken to them since probably 1996 or 97. But, yeah, it's pretty awesome to hear veteran stories. So I think that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to tell different stories I remember of other veterans, both still alive and who died, either in action or in training, which, I mean, it happens too. Training is dangerous because, as Marcus and I discussed last week, I think, is that safety can kill you. Too much safety can kill. Safety kills. Shit, that might be a shirt. Nobody steal that idea. Marcus, you too. And if you haven't seen the interview I did last week with Marcus Luttrell, definitely check that out. If you don't know where to find it, I'll tell you. It's out there. And I'm going to start, I always threaten to do this. I'm going to start beefing up my Rumble page because I've got a lot of interviews with veterans from, Remy, from Remy to Cheese to Eddie Gallagher. You've seen a lot of them. But I'm gonna start putting those up too. But check out that one I did with Marcus last week because I think it's unique because I was able to ask him questions that no one ever has. Because Lone Survivor, you know the story, I'm assuming. The Bin Laden raid, you know the story, I'm assuming. Well, at least you know my version of the story. Anyway, but we're able to see the humanity of what goes on. We're able to see the brotherhood that goes on. and we're able to think about it from that point of view, not of the flanking maneuver or how to do a vehicle interdiction from a little bird. And the question that I had for Marcus, and we didn't have a script. We're just having a good time. I went to stay at his house. Brought some of my kids down there. Some of my kids, I sound like I'm a sailor. But we were able to hang out. Great breakfast. Morgan Luttrell was there. Congressman, congratulations, won again. Good. He's a guy we need in office too. Morgan Luttrell. All he needs to do is say the word. I'll go down there and I'll bring Marcus too. We'll walk through the halls and tighten some shit up. Let me know. But we, great Texas breakfast, like cowboy hats and badges and like guns, like Texas, right? But the question that I asked Marcus I'm not going to ruin it here because it's his story, but go find that. This is episode 115, and I'm calling that one episode 114 of mine. There's a different number. I didn't bring it with me. I'll get you the info. I'll post it. But I asked him because when that gunfight started on the mountain, and like the movie Lone Survivor is awesome. And Marcus was able to assist with that. Mark Wahlberg did an incredible job playing Marcus in the movie. And the actors were incredible. The only issue, and Marcus and I talked about this, the only issue with the movie is they couldn't find mountains that were steep enough to film it. You're not going to go to Afghanistan to film a movie for a number of reasons. You bring a fancy looking camera, some of those Afghans are going to try to fuck it. They might try to eat it. I don't know. Whatever. So they filmed it, I think, in New Mexico. And even Marcus said, the mountains just weren't steep enough. Because like if some of these mountains, like you can lean on to rest. It's steep. And if you jump, it's going to be a hell of a lot longer than you think. But the question I had for him was, in the movie also, you'll notice he had the first crosshairs on the first Mujahideen or Taliban, whatever flavor of the day. He looked at the first guy, saw the whites of his eyes, and pulled the trigger. And I asked him, before that, the 5 seconds before that pull of that trigger, what was going through your mind? And I'm getting goosebumps right now at the answer. And it was incredible. And he told me a lot of the story. I'm not going to ruin that. It's out there. Watch the podcast. But when he started telling me about jumping down the mountains, like you're trying to like jump on trees to slide down and breaking bones and being shot. And he said, and it was bad, but it got worse when they started hitting us from the bottom, meaning Taliban from the village now are fighting their way up to them. They're trapped in the middle. And I don't know if you've been to Afghanistan. They don't give a shit if they're in a Polish ambush. And no disrespect to the Polish Grom. Sorry about that. We call it never mind why we call it that. But that's when you have a firing circle and the target's in the middle. You're going to hit each other. They don't care because Allah guides their bullets, and they won't shoot their buddy because Allah does not believe in friendly fire. And friendly fire is not friendly, by the way. So, we'll check out that podcast. I'm calling it 114, but this is 115 of the Operator Podcast. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell stories. If they're fun, if they're funny, the stuff that I remember. Here's one that I was thinking about the other day, too. Speaking of Marines, there's a dude out there you probably heard of, too. His name is J.D. Vance. He's the vice president-elect, senator, now vice president-elect. He was a Marine, and he rose to the rank of corporal, which is an E4. And meaning the way it works, not to be insult your intelligence, like E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, up to E9. That's how you rank him. E9 being a sergeant major or mass chief, and then private or a seaman. But he got to E4, became a senator. Now he's the vice president, which to me is awesome for this reason. Not because he's a brilliant dude and going to be a great vice president, but because he now is in charge of all the generals. And that in the military is what we call the motherfucking E4 mafia, baby, taking over. And along the way, along with asking questions too, that's the way you learn. And don't be afraid to ask questions. You ever seen when you're in a room and someone gives a brief or whatever, or you're in a class, someone's teaching something, and they say, okay, who doesn't understand? And no one raises their hand because they're afraid to be singled out. Don't be that guy. If you don't understand, you don't understand. So ask the question again. I did learn that at an early age, but the coolest way I ever saw it was when I was working as a liaison in DC when I was at SEAL Team 6, and there was a CIA woman there, and we were in a brief, and it was a good sized brief. It was they're pretty in depth, and the brief was done and saying, are there any questions? And she raised her hand. It was an attorney. She raised her hand and they said yes, and she goes, I don't understand. And they go, which part? And she goes, all of it. Can you repeat all of it? Because she didn't understand, and that's cool. So don't be afraid to ask the questions and the mindsets early on. When I got to basic underwater demolition SEAL training, I had I let myself get intimidated by what I'd seen before. The book Rogue Warrior. Rogue Warrior sounded really tough, but I knew I wanted to be on Charlie Sheen's team in the movie, so I'm going to stick with it. But it's almost intimidating, larger than life. A lot of people look at special forces that way, but I describe special forces, special operators, as people who just get it. And part of getting it is the ability to not be overly intimidated. It's okay to be cautious, but again, safety kills. And don't let something intimidate you. And also, just because another dude shows up doesn't mean he's better than you. So don't be intimidated immediately by someone who's better than you. But if you're in some kind of competitive sport or mixed martial arts and then you get beaten, well, then you're learning. That's it. So you lose. You learned it. There's no reason to be intimidated. But I went there as a 19-year-old dude, Buds Class 208, and I thought I was intimidated. I remember walking around, and I brought this up on the podcast with Marcus last week, that I ran into a dude who is now an admiral. His name is Tom Donovan, and he was an ensign at the time. That's how old I am. That's, again, with the rank structure, 01, and I think he's a 2-star, which would be an 9? Shit, whatever. Wait, 6, 8. Oh, whatever. You get to 06, 07, Captain Admiral. Anyway, he was an ensign at the time, which is an 01, and we were BSing by even then, you don't even have your own cage. You got a cage, and then you got a part of a cage. And I said, wow, this has got to be even double for you, because, I'm scared, but you're also in charge. You got to be really scared. And he just goes, scared of what? And I was like, that's a good point. It's that simple. Scared of what? It's like, these are just these instructors. You don't disrespect them, but don't think they're superheroes. They're just dudes doing a job too. Guys that go home at night. I mean, there are 1%ers that are complete freaks of nature, but most people are just doing their job, and they can have fun with you, especially if you're intimidated. So I took that advice, and that stuck with me for a long time. I think till now. But I kept it up to a point called Hell Week, and Hell Week at the time was the 5th week of training. But you start on Sunday, and you go till Friday, and you don't sleep. I mean, a total of 4 hours, maybe the whole week, and that's not like in a row. It's like 15 minutes sit down, shit like that. But there was a dude in my class they paired me up with, because you got to have a swim buddy for Hell Week. And that's part of the initial chaos, is all you got to do is stay with the guy next to you and stay with your boat crew, which is usually 7 dudes. But at this point, it's just stay with your swim buddy, and they'll separate you. So people are running around getting intimidated, whatever. It's a game. It's a very painful game. The sleep deprivation, you can get killed doing this game. But I wasn't scared. But there's a part called Breakout, which that's the scene that if you watch documentaries about Navy SEALs or whatever, or seen the movies, that's the scene where it's dark and guns are going off and there's explosions and people running back and forth to the surf zone. That's Breakout. Okay. And that's fun because you've seen it before. Holy crap. Here we are. As soon as Breakout's over, then the suck factor starts. And that's where your next goal is your next meal. But we knew it's coming. And I was paired up with this dude who was what we call a rollback. And he'd been in classes before, got rolled. You can get rolled to the class behind you for certain reasons, be it academic, be it you get hurt, get sick, fail something, whatever. But the rollbacks, when, we have the saying, everybody wants to be a frogman on Friday, especially when the sun's still out. When you're not in danger, man, loudmouths, baby, I've been here, I know the deal. Now we're both starting Hell. He'd never been to Hell Week. He'd been here before, and he was the one talking. I know this. He knew the songs, knew the instructors' names. We're sitting in this tent waiting for the first bomb to go. They're going to throw what's called a RD sim, an artillery simulator, which is a kick-ass firework. Like Katy Perry would sing about this motherfucker. So we're waiting for that to come in. I'm sitting there, and he looks at me, and he goes, hey, man, I'm scared. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. He goes, no, man, I'm really scared. I'm like, you're serious. This is a Breakout. And it starts, and now we're running back and forth, and they're purposely chaotic, and this dude quits. Like 2 minutes into the fun part, not even giving himself or Hell Week a chance. He just quit out of fear. Don't quit because you're afraid. Fear is natural, man. Fear is healthy. Fear makes you think more clearly. It's okay to be afraid. But the problem is the fine line, because panic is the problem. That's contagious. Contagious, man. Panic will get you killed, but calm is also contagious. Keep that in mind too. So it's okay to be afraid. Don't panic. One step at a time. And don't think just because someone outranks you or someone's bigger that they're better, because this guy quit and I made it through Hell Week. So did Donovan. Obviously, he's a friggin' admiral. That's awesome. Kick-ass job for him, by the way. He was a dude, Donovan, that I think there's 20 Navy SEALs out there, probably retired now, that can thank him for getting their trident, because he got him through Hell Week, because he was the guy. I think he went through with severe shin splints. And when we're in the surf zone, it sucked. Braveheart had recently come out, and we watched that right before Hell Week. You could hear him screaming, "Freedom!" from the surf zone. And I'm pretty sure he put everyone on his back and got us all through Hell Week. So don't let the fear, whatever, and calm is contagious. He was in pain but didn't show it. So you can do that. And also, another thing as far as fear and panic, a good way to get through fear and panic is to shut your mouth. And trust me, I need to take my own advice all the time. And I don't always take my own advice, but there's nothing wrong with just shutting up. Even if next time you're talking to someone, let them talk and just listen. And then later they'll say, what a great conversation that was, because you were just listening and you didn't say anything. That's okay. But when you do talk, this is very important. I learned this in SEAL training in BUDS, and then in selection for SEAL Team 6, it helped me get through. And this will help you get through a lot of stuff too, is the answer to a trick question is like in Green Team selection during close quarters battle, which is the hardest part, and that's really tactical stuff, way different than BUDS, way harder. Getting into SEAL Team 6 is way harder than getting into BUDS. Getting through BUDS. But they will purposely make you screw up stuff to see how you handle it. And when they say, why did you do that? Here's your answer. Because I'm an idiot. That's it. I don't want to hear your excuse. Hey, why the hell? Because I'm an idiot. And maybe they'll teach you something. Going back to BUDS too, a good veteran story. So third phase of BUDS. So that was like Hell Week, and then so the way BUDS works is you got first phase Hell Week, and then there's there's hydrographic reconnaissance. You actually have to go in the water for long periods of time, and this is after you've been tortured with the water. Complete hydrophobia. I know SEALs in Iraq that would go a mile out of the way just to not get their boots wet. Like complete. You wouldn't think Navy SEAls are afraid of water. I mean, usually a water evolution when even in combat, it's like it's coming down to this. It's like, well, this is gonna suck, but we can swim. So with that too, getting so second phase and third phase is land warfare, and you go to a place called San Clemente Island for 40 days of really intense training, no days off, not a lot of hours off. Sometimes it's wet and sandy every hour on the hour for as long as they want. And I think that every class was not liked by the instructors. I don't care what they say, the last hard class shit. But one of the things for 208 is they banned tobacco. The island is basically outside all day, and the range, you dip. When you're patrolling, you dip. When you're done patrolling, you dip. I'm a Black Buffalo guy now, so check out Black Buffalo for sure. But they banned, Black Buffalo's not tobacco, but they banned tobacco is the point I'm getting at on the island. And you can't have tobacco on the range after a swim when you get beat, after a meal. So, yeah, that was that. But there was a dude in my class, 208, and I haven't talked to him in years. His name is Joe Mastrangelo. 208, original, like me, like first time, every time, made it through. And he was a dude like, he was an older dude, experienced dude, been a stint in the Army, been to Israel. I think he's a skipper on boats down in the Keys now. I got to find him. Again, if you guys know Mastrangelo, have him hit me up. He eventually went to SEAL Team 1. I went to East Coast. That's how you kind of lose touch with people. You go one coast to the other, and teams be teams, man. But they banned tobacco, and he snuck some cigarettes out there. You know, he'd been in the Israeli Army, and he's a grown ass man. That's what he was saying to me. He's like, look, and his thing was he would start a lot of conversations off with, dude, you know the deal, and usually you knew the deal. And he was an older dude. We looked up to the guy. You can't tell him that then again because of cert dominance. We talked about that earlier, but I knew he was going to go. We're on the island, and nobody can hear you scream out there. There is nothing out there. There's water, there's sharks, there's sea lions and bird shit. That's all there is. And then we got a bunch of ammo and kick-ass guns. Okay, so there's stuff going on. Jets dropping bombs and whatnot. But he figured dude, you know the deal. I'm a grown-ass man. He went out back to smoke, and I went with him. I'm like, dude, look, you know the deal. You have a couple of those. Can I bum one? He's like, yeah, sure, man. Morale. So he handed me a smoke straight, like just a straight up rolled, and no tobacco, and we're out back smoking, and a goddamn instructor came. We're out back hiding. An instructor walks out around back. And, I mean, realistically, at this point, he could kick us the fuck out. He's probably not going to again because he's a dude. He knows we've made it this far, but you never know. So and I'm panicking now. I said fear's okay, but now I'm in a panic. I got a thing. I got this, whatever. And the instructor goes, what the fuck are you two doing? And I kid you not, Master Angela goes, dude, you know the deal. I'm having a Camel Straight. Long day. And stopped there, and the instructor kind of goes, roger that. And he walks off. Never heard about it again. That's just cool. He just owned it. Nothing wrong with just owning it. Master Angelo owned it. I learned from him. I learned from that. Smoke them if you got them. Yeah, and that's a part of it. Then you move on. You get Buds was a place where you don't know where, you're not supposed to finish it, so you do. And it's like, what do I do now? I got to be a Navy SEAL. I got assigned to SEAL Team 2, drove out east. I'd only been working with the Navy, but we had to stop by Fort Benning, Georgia, because at the time, during the process, we went through Army Airborne, first time working with the Army. And it was cool to see dudes that were basically the same age as me, but a different branch, because even growing up, you think Army soldiers, huge stud men, which they are, but they're just the same age as me at the time, and they're in a different uniform. I also learned for the first time, that the Army can actually take a 2-day course and squeeze it into 4 weeks. Army, baby. And then go to Team 2, meet older dudes. And you think they're older dudes, but you start to realize like an old guy at Team 2 is 27. Dudes like Scott Neal walking around, one of the first guys you see, and he's walking to the gym just drinking a gallon of milk. All right. I guess that's how we do. You get into different platoons, meet different dudes. I got assigned my second platoon with Scott Neal. The dude named Steve Drum was in there. Great dude. He's a retired Master Chief. We're all retired. We're old. Jocko was in that platoon. If you know who Jocko is, I'm assuming. Here's how old we are. Jocko was a blue belt at the time. Trained with them, and that was the platoon. So Scotty Neal and Jocko were big weightlifters. I actually remember a time we were out in a bar, and one of my teammates referred to them as Grog and Zork, just because they look like cavemen. But the thing was, that's another thing I learned from them is running fast is fine, but can you carry me if I get shot? Well, no, you better get in the weight room too. So cardio, got to be able to swim, hit the weights. And our thing was everyone in this platoon better bench press 300 pounds. So we got on that, and we eventually, I think we all did. But I remember, how do you get to this level? And Jocko said, we were on a chow hall on a carrier or some shit like that. And he said, well, what you do is you eat until you're full, and then you eat more. Okay. So we'll do that. And then little things like it's the pre-9/11. So we spent the millennium, New Year's Eve, New Millennium Eve in Bahrain at a ridiculous party. I've talked about that post and stuff. Drago was there. I interviewed him a year ago. Great dude. Another, he was my lifting buddy. We were at a point, too, so young there that we would warm up with 10 sets of 10 pull-ups, like 100 pull-ups and warm up. Then you do your back workout. Studs. Old now, but that's just cool, the stuff you learn. And then no missions here and there. And I joined the Navy on accident. I was going to stay for 4 years and leave, but then, all of a sudden it's time to re-enlist. And I love these dudes. I'm not leaving. I'm young. I'll re-enlist. So I re-enlisted in Kuwait, I think in 2000. Actually, Jocko re-enlisted me on a Humvee because we wanted to stand on American soil. Kuwait, on a Humvee, re-enlist, and I just for the guys in the 9/11, all this stuff happens. You just meet more people because 9/11 got to re-enlist. Eventually, when it comes to that, find out about SEAL Team 6, and the whole way we're just meeting good dudes. Lance Vaccaro, I met. He's no longer with us. He died in a jump training. Jumping a bundle, which if you've never seen a bundle jump, just picture putting a Coke machine on a 10-foot tether and you follow it out. It's connected to you out of a C-130, and its job is to kill you the whole way down. But a complete stud. Lance we called the Cobra because he was coiled tight like a cobra. Even when we do tandems, when you jump each other in tandem school, tandem bundle master school, you and another student, he will be the master. You jump him, then he jumps you, and then you pack your chutes and you do it again. And it's, one of my buddies, Nate, who was instead of saying you say to the passenger, jump or hang, and that means that all the weight, like you curl your legs up so the tandem master can feel the weight, and then you sort of fall out of the plane. You want to bring your knees up as the passenger because you don't want to rake them off that C-130 because it turns out that metal is not real. It's not conducive to your shins, to your shin bone. But instead of saying jump or hang, he would say Cobra, coil. And then a lot of gunfights with Lance. Lance was awesome. The funniest story about Lance, so we're overseas. And, you get care packages from family, and they understand you're not working every night, especially in the winter. And so they'll sneak a couple, items in there. No one's allowed to drink overseas. That's rule number one. Anyway, we were on our B huts. We had 2 men per B hut on this winter deployment, and it was great. And Lance came. We're at like a snowed out thing, not going to work for at least 5 days. We're going to sit around and watch Entourage. And so Lance came in. His mom had sent him a half-gallon of Jägermeister. And he walked in, like a few of us were there. There wasn't a lot of us on this team, the strike team, the mobile strike team, or whatever the hell we called it. And so he walked in and looked at us, and he opened the Jägermeister, and then he dropped the top of it, and he stomped on it and goes, "Oh, look what happened. Now we have to finish it." But it's just fun to think of the stuff that veterans do, and all the way meeting dudes from all the way up, learning at SEAL Team 2 pre-9/11. Learning during selection, I met so many goods there that Heath Robinson. I met Tom Ratzlaff in tandem bundle school. He was a gold team guy. Unfortunately, he was on Extortion 17. And two of the funny stories about him. So I mentioned the bundle earlier. Bundles are scary. Again, fear is fine, but you got to do it. It's okay to be afraid. And people some people love the bundles, man. They love landing them. They said at night, if you land a bundle, it hits first. You know when the ground's there. Fair. It also weighs 500 pounds, so rock and roll. That makes your parachute go a little faster too. The whole. I'm not going to get into the science of it, but during tandem bundle school, tethered tandem bundle master school, I had a bundle almost kill me. Similar actually to the malfunction that killed Lance because they had modified the parachute to be high performance, but not the cutaway system. I was fortunate because I pulled at about 10,000 feet. I burned 6,000 feet in a spin. Lance pulled at 5.5, and that's, But I had that happen to me. I finally, I was at a point in the spin where I had to, the parachute's diving because half of it didn't open. It line twisted around my head. And that's a pendulum swinging the bundle. So now you got this thing, and I'm in the middle of it. And I could hear it. I was the only one there. Woof, woof, woof. And I remember looking at, the cutaway's right at my chin. And you got to pull this thing up. And I remember just saying, look, if you want to see your daughters again, you got to get this out. And I popped it, whatever. And lived. And then the next day we had a pre-dawn jump. So the bundle almost kills me. I got to go home and not sleep. Come the next day, I'm the first guy out of the berth. So my bundle's first. And what you do is you sit there on the seats of a C-130 are on the sides, they're not seats, they're nets, and you're staring at your bundle. Now they have O2, right? They look like the mask that pilots put on, but they're connected to long hoses, and you can pull that down and breathe O2 just because you go to certain altitudes. Certain altitudes you have to wear it, but this one you can bring it down, whatever, and it's really good for hangovers. But I wasn't drinking the night before, I assure you. I was just shaking in my bed thinking about what just happened, and I hope someone found that bundle that landed a mile away in Farmer Brown's field. But now I'm on a plane again, and we're taking off. I'm staring at my bundle. I'm not hooked to it, but I'm going to jump this thing. Scared. Going to do it. Without fear, there would not be courage. But I look around, and Tom Ratzlaff, one of the funniest dudes I'd ever met, and the most solid op. Well, all those dudes. I went to work with people who were better than me every day at SEAL Team 6, and I was lucky for that. But I looked at Rat, and I had to say something. I said, Rat, I got to say something. I'm scared. Are you at least scared? And he had the O2 on his mask, and he pulled it off, and he goes, what do I care? I'm fucking shit-faced. And he was half joking, but he saw what happened to me, and so he had a couple Jack Daniels the night before. That was just funny. And that's another thing too, to never lose your sense of humor. That he brought the light out in that moment, and the jump went fine. Good on him. And I did get to work with Rat overseas. He was Gold Team, and Gold Team was the team that got shot down on Extortion 1-7. And don't believe the bullshit that the Bin Laden guys were on that. That was Red Team. This is Gold Team. These guys were fucking solid. But I went over there on I bullshit people and say I went over for contingency. I went over to re-enlist because Afghanistan is a tax exempt. Don't believe tax-free, tax exempt. So I went over to Afghanistan to hang out with Gold Team for like 2 weeks, get my re-enlistment on. All legit, all legal, whatever. But you get a big bonus. Well, big at the time. And it's tax exempt because Uncle Sugar, believe it or not, will take half your shit. So I went over there. And we did we were going to do an offset insert in a mountain and walk down this mountain into a valley, into a town. And we did eventually. But when we landed on the mountain, because we want to get a little space in between us, then walk, it was so funny. Rat was one of the recce guys, a sniper. And the way that we would do is send the recce guys out first, and they kind of start the perimeter. They're going to do the route, and they usually have one of their intel guys. Not going to get into what kind, but smart dudes are with them, and we're in the back. And I was going to, I'm going to get out after them, and Rat jumps off, and he gets up to about nipples of snow, and jokingly turned around and grabbed the ramp of the 47, the Chinook, and like in Saving Private Ryan, he goes, I'm not going. Again, it's going to be a shitty walk. We're probably going to get in a gunfight, but don't lose your sense of humor, man. Keep morale up, and that's a leadership thing that I learned great stuff from Rat and from Jocko, from Scott Neal, from Cobra, and just reminiscing on Veterans Day, and obviously Memorial Day. I think more. I just think of them in a different way, but Veterans Day, I remember the veterans, and that's very important to do that. Never lose your sense of humor, and don't lose touch with your guys. And it is, in my opinion, my humble opinion, good. It's good now that the election is over and President Trump is back in office, but we have had open borders for a number of years, and we're going to feel the repercussions of that. We already have, but it doesn't mean it's over just because the election's over. And I think that open border is a bad thing. I honestly think there's sleeper cells from different places here. And that's why we talk about preparation so much on this show. That's why you need to keep your head on a swivel at all times. I mean, everything, like I've mentioned, I don't know how many times, that even when you're crossing a crosswalk and it says walk, get your head out of your phone and look around. Just because you have the right of way doesn't mean a 90-year-old geezer mistook the brake for the gas, or it doesn't mean someone's crazy. We've seen what happens overseas at some Christmas parties. Keep your head on a swivel. Stay prepared. And that means you got to stay prepared with what's potentially here. And we know what that means. The Second Amendment is very important. Stocking up on ammo is important. I recommend, if you don't know how to start a fire, get stuff that you can start a fire with. Candles are good to have, waterproof matches, stuff like that. And then how are you going to get water? Make sure you have a water source, know how to purify water, have a water purifier, have a way to boil stuff if the power goes out, stuff like that. Preparation is good. And let me ask you a question. I bring this up because I need to talk about the sponsor of the show right now. Do you think the country's going in the right direction? Or does it feel like everything's falling apart? Like I said, we had an election, but what about the last couple of years? If you're feeling alarmed, don't worry, because you're not alone. In fact, Americans from all walks of life have taken action to prepare for whatever might be coming next, and that starts with having an emergency food supply. Storing your food in your home is the right thing to do because we are living in crazy times, which explains why so many people are and should be preparing. Right now, you can get ready also with a 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. It comes with delicious foods like creamy stroganoff, dynamite, honey wheat bread, mushroom rice pilaf. The entire kit offers 2,000 calories a day, and this food kit lasts for up to 25 years. In these storage containers, I have mine. They're in the garage. You can keep them in your garage, in the attic. You can keep them in your living room if you want to. I've sent them to my family all overseas. Who knows what the country will look like then in 25 years, right? But when that day comes, you'll be ready. So here's the website you need to go to for this food kit, preparewithrob.com. Go to preparewithrob.com right now. Order your 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. Again, preparewithrob.com. Go check it out. It is totally worth it. You got to stay prepared. And you may have seen yesterday I posted a video about a sale on Veterans Day for High Seltzer. Not sure if you've seen that, though. We're always exploring new solutions to post-traumatic stress other than the norms, and High Seltzer's one of them. THC-infused drink, 0 sugar, 0 alcohol, 0 carbs, great tasting. THC, obviously, so if you get a little PP test going, you're not going to want to take it, but it's a really chill way to do it. A Veterans Day special. Again, if you use code OPERATOR at highseltzer.com, hiseltzer.com, code OPERATOR, you're going to get 20% off. And on today, Veterans Day, 100% of sales goes to veterans foundations, and I've picked Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions, vetsolutions.org. It's the one that takes people down to Mexico, veterans down to Mexico, and that's where I first took Ibogaine. You've heard me talk about Ibogaine a lot, DMT, 5-MeO, stuff like that, but 100% of sales at highseltzer.com today goes to, and not just that foundation, but a lot of other ones helping first responders, veterans, service animals, things like that. So definitely go check it out. It's worth the look, and it's worth getting it today. And it's a total chill drink, man. I highly recommend it. But I partner with them today, just so we can get people involved with veterans and first responders, stuff like that. And hey, since we're talking about it, because I keep bringing up My Pillow, you can still go there. I'm telling you, the body pillow is dynamite, and I love the towels. My wife wasn't sure about them until I got them. She loves the towels too. But go over to My Pillow, code the operator, one word, code the operator, and you'll get big sales, because Mike Lindell and My Pillow had a big shipment, and someone canceled them because that's how we roll. But everything's like the body pillow, the queen size, all at discounts, like $18.88 for the queen size, and the body pillow is $29.88. But those are sales. MyPillow.com. Code the operator. Here's a phone number you can call for My Pillow. Also, this is for the discount: 800-927-7208. 800-927-7208, or MyPillow.com. Code the operator. Body pillow, towels, slippers. Get that stuff, and check out highseltzer.com. Also, very important for Veterans Day. So I just wanted to share some stories with me. I'm not trying to tell other guys' stories, but I do want to get some of those dudes on this podcast. Master Angelo, Steve Drum, looking right at you. There's a couple other guys I'm not mentioning their names, but they're close. They'll be exclusives, baby. But I wanted to tell some stories just because Veterans Day is more of a celebration of veterans, and it's important to recognize them. And people ask too, how do you recognize the vets? I mean, there are certain ways. Thank you for your service is awesome. That's cool. If you're in the airport and you see active duty dudes or someone that you can sort of tell is a veteran, pick up their tab or something, say hi. But what veterans really want too is they're not looking for sympathy or empathy. Me personally, man, just let them tell their story, where they came from, their brothers that they're with or they lost, what they've been through, where they've been, stuff like that. A lot of great stories, like I was trying to say today. And the reason that I bring this up is because, we were on high profile missions, and we did get headlines for stuff that we did. And because of that, in my former line of work, I'm able to have a platform where I can tell stories and talk about certain people. But by far, at SEAL Team 6, I did not have the most dangerous job in the military. But the people who did, they don't have a platform necessarily. And these are the people, if you've been overseas and seriously, like even to a place, there is no front line in this war, but you've been to a place like in a chow hall or Green Bean Coffee or something, and you see the dudes rolling in that are dirty as shit. They've been driving around, Route Irish, driving back and forth to the border of Syria, driving through the shitty-ass valleys of Afghanistan. God knows what they've seen. And I can't even imagine what it's like to every second I could blow up. I could blow up now. I could blow up now. I could blow up now. Imagine the anxiety. Like I'm at the age where I don't want to stub my toe. But these people, these men and these women, They were in some shady spots. They don't have the platform, but they were with people. But they were in the area where it came down to, like I mentioned at the beginning, it wasn't Democrat or Republican or who was a pro or anti-war at the time or even now. Veterans did their jobs, and their job was to cover the dude next to him. And you did a good job. It's important veterans know that. You did your job, and you won. It doesn't matter that politicians screwed everything up, because that's what politicians do. They overspend, they screw things up. But vets, you did your job. You followed your guys. You fought next to them. You fought with them. You protected them. They protected you. That's part of the reason that veterans never needed to cover their own backs, because they had people with them. Now, a lot of guys in the private sector, and it is different. You might need to watch your six, your own back once in a while. But getting around other veterans, it's important. The reason it's important, I think, to tell your story is because you get it off your chest, you get it out there, and you realize it's okay. You realize that you did what you were supposed to do in the worst conditions, and so you be proud of that. And don't be afraid to celebrate a little bit. Like I said, Marine Corps birthday was yesterday. And so I'm sure they're just going to continue the celebration. They might make it Veterans Week. That's fine. But not looking for sympathy. And I hear a lot too that certain groups get a whole month, and they get their own flag, and veterans, they get one day. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Every day is Veterans Day. And we have our own flag too. You're never out of the fight.